And now I'm actually going to really introduce Maureen Shaffer. Maureen, she is, first of all, a good friend of D by D, always offering to support and volunteer and help with us. So I reached out to her and said, would you mind doing one of the mini keynotes? And her background is different from the other two folks that you have heard from so far. She is a seasoned med tech marketing strategist. She's a founder and CEO of a company called Mingleto, LLC. With her background, she's able to provide commercialization strategy and advisory services to medical device and digital health companies. She's got more than 20 years of experience inside medical device organizations and was a three-time VP of marketing. So Maureen has led market strategy, reimbursement initiatives, clinical education efforts, all the things that help early stage companies achieve growth and competitive traction. Since 2012, she supported founders and CEOs in crafting compelling market entry and message strategies that drive adoption, funding, and revenue. Her work integrates deep industry insight, practical commercialization frameworks tailored for medtech and health tech startups and scale ups. So, for a lot of folks that are in this space, her consulting services are invaluable. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maureen.
Thank you for the kind words, Ingrid. So, what I'm going to talk to you about today is the trajectory that I took to become a vice president because I found that that gap, that chasm between director and VP was the most difficult one for me to cross. And I want to blend insights to you along the way from undergraduate students we have here to the mid-career folks so that it can go more quickly, more easily for you. All right, so we're going to roll back to the beginning here really quickly. In my free time, when I wasn't with my friends outside, I spent my time either at my dad's workbench building and creating things or reading my mom's nursing textbooks. What I learned when I received a postcard from USC before my senior year in high school was that biomedical engineering existed as a thing. And I knew instantly that was what I wanted to do. So I knew that's all I was going to apply for and that that was going to be my major in college. So as first gen, I received pushback. Why can't you be a nurse like your mom? Why do you have to go so far away? Etc. And I want you to know that it's your journey, it's your life. People are going to have opinions that may be positive and may be negative, but you need to know you better than anyone else and what's for you and what's not for you. So I ended up attending Duke, and I spent a lot of time at Duke Hospital working in different departments, including my senior year where I learned something very important. So I worked for the director of plastic surgery research. I went there, he handed me this UV probe that his buddy in the UK had handed him, and he asked me to make it go. Multiple voltages, multiple amperages, multiple frequencies. And I informed him that he could buy a power supply for a couple $100 that would do the same thing. And he said, no, I want you to build it. So what I learned in that experience was the exclusion side, which is I did not want to go build capital equipment for HP as I had previously thought. So that was a great thing to learn. So it's as important to learn what's for you as what's not for you, so that you have that as a filter moving forward. I was able to go ahead and join Cordis as an engineer after school. And what I really learned there was to look outside. So one Saturday morning, I'm sitting on the manufacturing floor in my like beautiful lint-free yellow gown setup and wondered why am I doing this? Like I always loved medicine and engineering equally together. And blowing balloons on a Saturday morning by myself on the manufacturing floor was not it. So, at about a year in at Cordis at that point, I put my head up and I looked around and I started asking questions. Hey, I want to be closer to physicians. I want to be closer to patients. I want to be closer to procedures. Like I miss medicine. Where can I get that like hand in R&D and hand in medicine? Well, lo and behold, there's a position called product manager or a group called product management that I didn't know existed. So went and pitched the VP of sales and marketing, and he was kind enough to go ahead and hire me as a product manager. So at Cordis. And when I was a product manager at Cordis in Miami, I had the opportunity to launch two of the first products that Cordis had into this new strategic sector. And what I learned was we had this 3-day launch, national sales team, glory, glory, and all of that. And then sales weren't what we expected them to be because the sales reps, it took them 3 times the effort to sell what we had just launched. That was a strategic initiative for the company than what they had in their bag already. Friction. What we had was friction. So we had to go about and change the comp plan. And then I leveraged the peer to peers listen to peers. You remember this from your teenage years and it carries on forward. Uh, and built a weekly newsletter where we shared tips from their peers, not from me, not from other people in the company, but from their sales peers about what they did to be successful. And then we force ranked them weekly, monthly, which set up a little competition and adoption went up. Then I moved to Ann Arbor to take a position as a marketing and business development manager, where I learned the power in asking. So during my tenure there, the VP of R&D had left. They asked me to manage the R&D department in addition to what I was already doing, and I didn't ask for a raise or a title change. I was so excited to have more responsibility that it didn't even occur to me. But I had the good sense before I left, as we were in the process, the end of the process of selling the company to CR Bard, to ask the CEO, how do I get to this next position? How does that happen? How do I get to director? What's it going to take? And he gave me his list of executive recruiters and told me that I could use his name with them. So there's great power in asking. What I did was leverage that to move over to US Surgical as a director at twice the salary that I had been making, base salary. Um, I That was minimally invasive cardiac surgery. I then moved to Hartport. I moved to San Francisco, Bay Area. I worked in minimally invasive cardiac surgery at 2 different companies, and I really felt like my career was flatlining. I felt more dissonance than ever with where I wanted to go personally and professionally. And I think it all came to a head when they put 2 people in between me and the white space between me and the vice president. And I had to ask myself why. Why did that happen? What could I have done differently? How can I make sure that doesn't happen again? And due to this dissonance, and I was feeling frustrated in that, and I decided I didn't understand what was happening and I needed to take my own personal time out. So I took a 2 year sabbatical to rest and reset myself. I wrote my own obituary, which is there's not a better way to figure out what your lifetime goals need to be than writing that. I wrote what are called like BHAGs, if you're familiar, big, hairy, audacious goals, which is a little bit more near term, the 5 to 10 year window. And that gave me a lot of momentum and motivation uh, in a positive direction. And lastly, I spent time reflecting on what had I done well and what had I not done well? Where were the gaps in my understanding? And what did I need to do differently in order to move forward? And I learned a couple things. Number one, I had been caught in the execution trap. I've been doing more and more and more. I thought, oh, I need to do more projects and I need more responsibility and I need to work with more people and I need more, more, more. And I found, as I had already said, that pushed me further away. At one point, I actually had someone say, well, why would we promote you? We'd have to hire 2 people to replace you. That is not where you want to be. So I had to get off that hamster wheel and understand what it was going to take. Upon reflection, I did realize that I had been doing more strategic things, building advisory boards, negotiating contracts, landing distributor agreements, etc. And that this was a building phase for me, but I needed this time to rest, relax. I learned to salsa dance, speak Italian. Uh, I did a lot of fun things. Snowboard, learned to snowboard. So, and it gave me that mental space to be able to do that. And my biggest takeaway was this kind of deep trust. So, what I thought were relationships upwards, with my peer and upwards, were really relationships with my peers and recognition upwards, not relationships. And what I needed to do was spend the time to build very solid, deeply trusting relationships upwards where I wanted to go with my future VP peers, with the CFO, with the CEO, with folks on the board. And that was going to get me to the next place I needed to go. So when I received a call from a recruiter I'd known for 10 years, Let's talk about the power relationships. Recruiter I'd known for 10 years. He had been asked by the VP of sales had asked him to reach out to me about this role. What I found out later was that the chairman of the board had from Court, whom I knew who was the founder at Cordes, had asked the VP of sales to find me and hire me. Uh, and when I recognized the fact that there was another investor on the board from USVP, Alan Kaganov, was on the board, and I knew a lot of people from the sales team from Hartport. Uh, and then I was making my decision, and they had an investment analyst whom I had known from my company in Ann Arbor call me and help convince me to take this position. Literally every company I had ever worked for was a part of bringing me into this role. So I took the job there as director and vowed to do this differently. I needed to make time because building relationships takes time. And so, how was I going to do the director job, start to segue into the VP role, and build these relationships? So, we applied an operations mindset to marketing. Any inefficiency, any friction, anything that people didn't like doing, we looked at them and we brought in software, we built systems, and we made marketing incredibly efficient. And this gave me the time to start taking on some of the more strategic things that the VP would have and to build these relationships up above me. And I'm glad to say that a year later, I was promoted to vice president at AtriCare. And yeah, I was really happy about that. It took me a while. So hopefully it doesn't take you as long. I was then able to segue to two additional vice president positions, both relationship based, and then understanding what my lifetime goals were and my audacious goals were and the career trajectory that I wanted. I started my own consultancy as the founder and CEO. So with all this, I hope there's some key takeaways for you, and I have homework. So this weekend, just figure out what is your NPS. So NPS is Net Promoter Score. This is something Bain developed years ago. And you may have seen these if you bought something on Amazon or other places. And it's how likely are you to recommend this product, this company, et cetera. So I want you to ask, how likely are they to recommend me for a role, for a project, for a new position, a promotion? And do it 2 to 3 levels above you. If you're a manager, do it through VP or CFO. If you're not yet a manager, do manager, director, VP. And assess the strength of your relationships using this kind of very simple method. And you can go Google NPS or drop it in any of the lovely AIs, and it will help you figure out what that is and how to score it. Very simple. So with that, I want to thank you very much for your time and listening. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have from this presentation, and enjoy your next and last mentee session.